Well, I owe an apology. I am not good at counting at all, and for some reason, I should have actually looked everywhere. I thought today was the 26th. It was not. It was not the 26th at all whatsoever. It was the 27th. Yesterday was the 26th, and I feel extremely kind of stupid about it. I feel like a fool, and I feel like I owe anyone who watches this an apology or watched any of the promos and was like, "Hey, why wasn't this on that one voice actor's YouTube page yesterday?" Or whenever you guys are watching this. I am extremely sorry, and I hope you guys can forgive me. I believe in campfires. I believe in campfires because I think they are awesome. Campfires have been something I have enjoyed throughout my life, whether it's just hanging out with my friends on a Friday night or making s'mores after a long, cold day. Campfires always just seem sensational. There's something about them that seems to bring a little bit of excitement to everyone. When I sit down at a campfire, it is always the same. It begins with everyone bustling around, trying to make s'mores and swatting at the smoke, but after a while the scene seems to mellow down, and everyone warms up by the fire to relax. Everyone talks and laughs as they tell ghost stories through the smoke. With the stars shining above, or maybe under the canopy of the tall trees, a campfire brings people together to laugh and just have a good time. My dad and I have a story to tell about our encounters with the dog man. My dad's story took place in the mid-70s. There's a cemetery behind the Alpena High School and a wooded area behind that. There are many trails that run through here. In this area is a place called the Sandies, where all the young kids would go and party. My dad and two of his buddies were in a canoe in broad daylight, paddling from the Sandies around the back of the cemetery. The banks of the rivers are 10 to 12 feet high in places, and some trails run right to the edge. The three of them saw what looked to be a big dog running behind them on the trail. They didn't pay much attention to it until they heard a splash. When they looked, it was swimming after them. Then it went from a dog paddle to the chest and front legs coming out of the water and wading after them. They decided right then and there not to wait around and see what it was. Honestly, I thought it was bullshit at the time, and I'm still not even sure to this day if it was something they had been smoking or drinking. Then around 2001-2002, I was leading some friends through the Sandy's Trail. I used to like taking people out there without a flashlight and tell them my dad's story to freak them out. The girls were freaked out before we even got into the woods, so I decided not to scare them that night. In the river are several islands connected by a small sliver of land. At the time, there were 3 such islands chained together, and I took them through to the last one, which was planted with pines and nice even rows. I was the first one back there, about 30 seconds ahead, when one of the girls got her foot hung up on something. As I was going back to help her, there was a spot where the trees make a sort of roof effect, which is really cool looking at night, with the moon shining through. At that point, I saw something. I'm not sure what it was, but it sent me running out double time. When my buddy saw my face, he didn't say a word. He just followed both of us, dragging the girls behind us. When he asked me later why he came out in such a hurry, I told him it was because I thought I had seen something at the other end of the island, walking through the trees that was very tall and not likely human. He may not have believed me, but he never questioned it either. I'm still not sure what I saw. It could have easily been that I scared myself with my dad's story and was seeing things, but I know this. I still don't like the dark, and even though I love hunting, I hate going out before the sun comes up during deer season. During the summer of 2003, Events in northeastern United States involving a strange, human-like creature sparked brief local media interest before an apparent blackout was enacted. Little or no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed, primarily focused in rural New York State and once found in Idaho. Self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of unknown origin. Emotions range from extremely traumatic levels of fright and discomfort to an almost child sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories remained powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for some answers that year. In early 2006, the collaboration had accumulated nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and present day, spanning 4 continents in almost all cases. The stories were identical. I've been in contact with a member of this group and was able to get some excerpts from their upcoming book. A Suicide Note, 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it necessary to assuage any guilt or pain I have introduced through this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him. For once, I awoke and felt his presence, and once I woke and saw his form. Once again, I awoke and heard his voice, and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear what I might next wake to experience. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose, and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dear Lenny, I have prayed for you. He has spoken your name. A journal entry, translated from Spanish, 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand. I will not sleep. His voice. After that, it is unable to be read. A Mariner's Log, 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed, I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here again at the request of the rake. From a Witness, 2006. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip from Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m., I awoke, thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man, or a large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee and tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature stumbled around the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot away from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, or probably closer to 5. It just seemed like a while, just looking at my husband. The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kids' room. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed in to help our daughter. She was very badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. They did not survive. Being a small town, news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and local newspapers took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the creature we now refer to as the rake. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believed to be accounts of the rake. None of them gave any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature in its first 3 pages, and never mentioned again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that they were told to leave by the rake. That was the last entry in the log. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person. Multiple people also mentioned being spoken to, my daughter included. This led us to wonder if the rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night, every night, for 2 weeks. I would tediously scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the 2nd week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at 8 times the normal speed. This took almost an hour each day. On the first day of the 3rd week, I thought I had heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to describe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and I now believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, the voice on the recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head make me very upset. I have not seen the rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I know and fear that one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. Once, in a place far away, a very long time ago, there was a boy named Roger. He was tall but a bit round. He lived in a big city where unusual things seemed to happen every day. For example, his uncle died. Anyway, Roger had lots of enemies in the city. All the people he used to like were now his enemies because he changed. He used to be a really successful banker named Ron, but he decided to go another way, and now he is a hobo named Roger. Because of this, his friends thought they didn't like him anymore. So they said, "You're our enemy now." And Roger was like, "Oh no, I have no friends, but loads of enemies." Roger lives day to tomorrow by the change he gets off strangers outside of McDonald's, but sometimes when he gets enough money, he goes to the local shopping center called Teco. He can only buy things when they're on sale, so he only buys things when they're on sale because he doesn't have any much money. Sometimes he even gets enough change to buy a chicken, when it's on sale. And he goes to KFC and says, "Can you cook this for me?" And they do it because they are his enemies and spit in his food. Yuck. Today, on the most windy and stormy and rainy and cloudy and sad of days, he decided he needed to eat and went to Taco. When he went inside, there was no baskets. This is weird, Roger thought. That must be giving them a break today, so he kept going. He saw that the bread was on sale, so he was going to buy it. And then a big, fat, hairy man ran up to him and said, "No, that's not for you." And he took the sale sign away, which made the bread go back up to $100,000. This is all in the future, so that's normal for the future. Roger made a face similar to this, and he said, "But if you don't give me that, I will starve." And the fat man laughed, and his fat went bouncy from laughing. Then one of Ron's enemies died, so Ron felt anger rising. That happens when his enemies die, and he punched the man so hard that his fat fell off, and the man was so angry that he cried blood. Then the lights went out so fast that Roger knew he was going to be murdered. A black mist came out of the cereal boxes, and the bacon was flying everywhere. Pancake mix splashing over the counters, freezers freezing at high temperature. That normal, so it was freezing the frozen pizzas too much. Rotten! Ran away, far away, to the aisle that always full of people. It has like loads of sweets and crisps. Yummy. There was like 15 monsters there, all black with eyes oogling with blood and tears, and that looked like bacon, but were actually dead people's skin. He screamed, "Fat man, help!" But when the fat man came over, he said, "You punched my fat, now you will pay. I am your enemy." And that he ran and went into a freezer, but forgot that the freezers froze too hard now, and he died from freeze. Roger ran to the exit and was almost out when he tripped on something. He looked down and saw his enemy saying, "Help me, the pancakes are too string." And then he said, "No, I am Roger. You were Ron's friend, not mine, Smelly." And he ran out the door. He was safe. He got out. He escaped. He avoided death. He was alive. He was tall. He was safe. He was Roger. Then he went back in for the bread, but forgot about the monsters. So when he got the bread, the monsters came out between the slices and cried blood from their mouth, saying, "We are your enemies, Ron," he said. "How do you... Oh, my old name." And then they ate him, and he just fell down the floor, crying from death. His last words were, "I am your enemies." Then he fell down and died. Just before he died, he said, "I will now be a supermarket monster." So when you are in a supermarket, remember that Ron is waiting. In the future, though, because it's in the future, remember? I want to thank you guys for listening to this. When I started this project, this comeback, I had the idea that I think it would be really neat if I read all these stories outside. And then, almost back to back to back, it was raining, and I wasn't able to record anything due to the rain. But then I thought the next best thing would be thinking about stuff you might tell around a campfire. And I thought that concept was really cool, so I went and I looked for stories on the internet, stuff you might hear around a campfire, something that might, make you feel scared before you go to sleep. And I really had a lot of fun doing this. I was happy to see how I was able to hone in on my skill. And with the new editing software I have, I finally got iMovie. I'm able to improve the quality of my videos. And I really want to thank you guys for just kind of sticking around. Right now, I want to wish a happy birthday to one of my friends and fellow YouTubers, Pyromaniac1339. He's a gamer. He's getting his YouTube channel started up. He's really talented at what he does, and I seriously recommend you guys check him out. So, happy birthday, Pyromaniac1339, and I hope you're having a good day. And until next time, I'm that one voice actor. Keep your eyes and ears open, 'cause you never know when I might pop up.